You didn't stumble onto this by accident. Maybe you were scrolling, half distracted, thinking about something that happened earlier today, or something that hasn't happened yet, but keeps circling in your mind anyway. And then this appeared. Not because anything mystical decided it should, but because somewhere inside you, a part of you has been quietly asking a question you haven't said out loud. If you're still here after these first few seconds, it's probably because some part of you already knows this isn't just another video. It's a moment. And moments like this only mean something if you let them. There's a strange thing that happens right before a person is ready to understand something new. Life starts placing small, ordinary reminders in their path. A conversation that suddenly hits differently. A song lyric that used to mean nothing and now feels like it was written specifically for this week. A sentence in a video that makes you pause the scroll for reasons you can't fully explain. None of this is proof of anything supernatural. It's simpler than that and somehow more honest. You are paying attention now in a way you weren't before. And once you start paying attention, you start noticing what was always there, waiting to be seen. This is usually where people expect the spiritual path to feel lighter, more peaceful, easier to walk. But that isn't always how it works. Sometimes the path gets heavier right when you start walking it with open eyes. Not because something has gone wrong, but because you can no longer pretend you don't see what you see. You notice the gap between what someone says and how they actually behave. You notice the difference between a decision made out of love and a decision made out of fear disguised as practicality. You notice, most uncomfortably of all, the places where your own life doesn't quite match what you claim to believe. That noticing is not a punishment. It's the beginning of something real. Think about the last time you truly struggled with something. Not a small inconvenience, but a real heavy season. Chances are, in the middle of it, you kept asking one question over and over. Why is this happening to me? It's a natural question. It's also, most of the time, the wrong one, because it keeps you looking backward, searching for someone or something to blame, instead of looking at what the difficulty might actually be doing to you while it happens. There's a different question that only shows up once a person has been through enough. Instead of asking, why is this happening, they start asking, what is this shaping? That single change in wording is not a small thing. It rearranges the entire relationship a person has with their own hardship. Picture two people going through the exact same loss, the same disappointment, the same collapse of a plan they had been building for years. One of them spends the entire time trying to figure out who is responsible, replaying the unfairness of it, waiting for the pain to simply end so life can go back to how it was. The other person is in just as much pain. Make no mistake, grief does not disappear because you understand it philosophically. But somewhere underneath the pain, a second process is happening. They are noticing what the situation is revealing about their limits, their attachments, their blind spots. They are not enjoying the difficulty. They are refusing to waste it. That refusal is where real transformation begins, and it rarely looks dramatic from the outside. It looks like someone quietly becoming someone else, one uncomfortable week at a time. There's an old idea, older than most of what fills our feeds today, that fire is not automatically a destroyer. Left alone, it can burn a forest to ash. But guided, contained, understood, it can also melt down something rigid and useless and reshape it into a blade, a tool, something sharper and more capable than it was before. The fire doesn't choose which outcome you get. What you bring to the fire decides that. Your circumstances are rarely gentle enough to ask your permission before they show up. But what you do with them, what you allow them to reveal or refine inside you, that part has always belonged to you, even when it didn't feel that way. Before we go further, I want to pause here for a second because there's something worth naming honestly. If any of this is landing, if something in your chest just tightened a little, there's a very common trap waiting right around the corner. It's the urge to do something enormous right now, to quit the job tomorrow, to send the message tonight, to rewrite the entire plan for your life before this feeling has a chance to fade. Inspiration feels urgent in the moment, so it convinces you that speed equals seriousness. But real change is rarely built on the decision that feels most dramatic. It's built on the decision that's still true 3 weeks later, when the emotion has settled and only the clarity remains. So instead of rushing to prove something to yourself today, try something quieter. Let one thought from this video follow you into tomorrow morning. That's enough. That's actually more than enough. Now, before we continue, let's slow down for a moment for something a little different. This is the part I sometimes call the comment of the day, because every so often someone leaves a few sentences underneath one of these videos that says more than the entire video did. Today's comment simply read, "Discomfort is often the entrance fee for freedom, and most people never realize they've already paid it." Read that again for a second. It doesn't promise that leaving what restricts you will feel good right away. It doesn't pretend that walking away from something familiar, even something that was slowly hurting you, comes without a cost. It's honest about the fact that freedom usually asks for something first. A period of uncertainty, a stretch of loneliness while old habits fall away and new ones haven't formed yet. The comment isn't cynical, though. It's almost reassuring once you sit with it. It's telling you that if this season feels uncomfortable, that discomfort is not necessarily evidence you made the wrong choice. Sometimes it's simply the toll you pay to walk through the door. There's another shift that catches people completely off guard, and it rarely announces itself as spiritual at all. One ordinary afternoon, without any clear reason, you look at a drawer full of things you haven't touched in years and feel an unexpected urge to empty it. You scroll past old photos on your phone and realize they don't carry the same weight they used to. You find yourself deleting a folder of notes, giving away clothes, removing numbers from your contacts that you kept for reasons you can no longer remember. It can feel like nothing more than a random burst of tidiness, but very often something else is happening underneath it. Your surroundings have a way of holding on to versions of you that have already finished their chapter. Every unread book you were saving for someday, every gift you never liked but felt guilty discarding, every object tied to a relationship or identity that no longer fits, quietly keeps a door open to a life you've already outgrown. And the life waiting for you on the other side has a hard time fully arriving while you're still furnishing the rooms of the one you left behind. This isn't about owning fewer things for the sake of appearances. It's about noticing that the way we hold on to physical clutter often mirrors the way we hold on to old identities, old grudges, old versions of ourselves we've outgrown but never formally said goodbye to. A useful question to sit with next time you're staring at something you can't decide whether to keep isn't whether it might be useful someday. It's simpler than that. Does this still belong in the life you're building now? Then there's a season that almost nobody warns you about, and it might be the one you're standing in right now. A period where nothing seems to move. You're doing the right things, showing up, staying consistent, making decisions that on paper should be leading somewhere, and yet everything feels frustratingly still, like pressing your hand against a door that won't budge no matter how hard you push. The instinct when this happens is almost always to add more effort, more hours, more pressure on yourself, as if stillness were a problem that could be solved through sheer force. But there's an older way of thinking about seasons like this, one that shows up across very different philosophies throughout history. The idea that forcing movement at the wrong moment often creates more resistance than progress, and that sometimes the wisest action available is not another addition, but a subtraction. Removing what never truly belonged in the first place, rather than piling more effort onto a foundation that was already cracked. What if this quiet, frustrating stretch of your life isn't asking you to build something new right now? What if it's simply asking you to stop pouring energy into something that had already run its course? Not every pause is wasted time. Some pauses exist specifically to stop you from investing further in a direction you were always meant to leave. There's a particular kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with how hard someone is working and everything to do with how much they've been consuming. You watch one more video, read one more book, save one more quote you tell yourself you'll return to later, learn one more framework, one more philosophy, one more way of explaining the same feeling you've already understood for a while now. And somewhere in the middle of all that collecting, a strange thing happens. Your mind fills up with answers, while your actual life stays exactly the same shape it was a year ago. Knowledge has a sneaky way of imitating movement. It feels like progress because you're absorbing something new, but understanding an idea and living it are two entirely different acts, and only one of them changes anything. A belief you've never tested against your real, inconvenient, complicated life is still, in a way, borrowed. It belongs to whoever said it first, not to you, until you've actually let it survive contact with something difficult. If you've been feeling not enlightened, but overwhelmed lately, buried under everyone else's insights and frameworks and five-step processes, it might not be because you need one more explanation. It might be because you've quietly reached the point where the next lesson isn't going to arrive through listening. It's going to arrive through living. Peace, when it finally shows up after years of living at a certain speed, doesn't always feel the way people expect it to. If you've spent a long stretch of your life solving one problem after another, rushing between responsibilities, bracing for whatever difficulty might be waiting around the next corner, your nervous system quietly learns to treat urgency as the default setting. So when life actually slows down, when nothing is on fire and nothing needs your immediate attention, instead of relaxing into it, something in you starts looking for a crisis to manage. You replay an old argument that has nothing left to resolve. You invent a problem that didn't exist yesterday, not because you enjoy suffering, but because constant tension has become the only rhythm your body recognizes as safe. Familiar and comfortable are not always the same thing, even though they can feel identical from the inside. Learning to actually rest in stillness, to let a quiet Tuesday simply be quiet without treating it as a warning sign, is its own kind of skill, and like any skill, it takes practice to unlearn the years that came before it. One of the more dangerous conclusions a person can reach about their own life is believing they are stuck, when what's actually true is that their life has simply gone unclaimed. Those two words sound close enough to be mistaken for each other, but they describe entirely different situations. Being stuck implies there's nothing available, no door, no path forward. Being unclaimed implies the opposite. It means opportunities have likely been arriving for a while now, quietly, without fanfare, but they've gone untouched because they didn't look the way you expected an opportunity to look. So many people wait for certainty before allowing themselves to move. They tell themselves they'll begin once they feel more confident, once they've saved more money, once everyone around them approves, once the fear finally disappears. But certainty has never been the entry fee for meaningful change. Think back to whatever decision actually altered the direction of your life. It's rare that it arrived wearing a label that said, "This one matters, pay attention." Usually it looked ordinary. Sometimes it even looked inconvenient or slightly risky or like more responsibility than you were ready for. That's often exactly what opportunity looks like up close. Not a golden invitation, but a disguised form of responsibility, asking you to reply to the message first, to say yes to something before you feel fully qualified for it, to start while the outcome is still completely unknown. Underneath all of this sits something quieter and, for a lot of people, harder to admit. Sometimes the reason we don't reach for what's available to us has very little to do with fear of failing. It has more to do with a lifelong discomfort around taking up space at all. Somewhere along the way, many of us learn to shrink. We say yes because it's easier than explaining why we'd rather say no. We let louder personalities choose the direction of a room, a relationship, a plan. We stay quiet in meetings and family dinners and friendships because being agreeable feels safer than being seen as difficult. And slowly, without ever making one dramatic decision to give up control, your calendar starts reflecting everyone else's priorities more than your own. Your energy goes toward maintaining circumstances you never actually chose. Your future starts to feel less like something you're building on purpose, and more like something that's simply happening to you while you watch from a slight distance. Reclaiming your life in this sense rarely starts with something loud. It starts with a smaller, more private question, asked honestly, maybe for the first time in years. Am I choosing this because it's genuinely right for me, or because it keeps someone else comfortable? Am I saying yes because I want to, or because I'm afraid of what happens if I say no? Which leads to something that almost every person on this kind of path eventually has to face. And it has very little to do with meditation or study or any technique at all. It has to do with honesty, specifically the kind of honesty that risks disappointing someone you care about. So many of us were taught in ways nobody ever said out loud that being good means keeping everyone around us comfortable. We avoid conflict. We soften opinions until they barely resemble what we actually think. We agree to plans we never wanted, tell ourselves we're being kind. And for a while, it even feels that way because it looks peaceful from the outside. But there's a cost that builds slowly, almost invisibly over years of this pattern. Every time you set aside what you actually need to protect someone else's comfort, you teach yourself just a little more each time that your own voice matters slightly less than everyone else's. And eventually you look up and realize your life has become remarkably comfortable for the people around you while becoming strangely unfamiliar to yourself. That isn't kindness. That's self-abandonment, simply wearing kindness as its disguise. The truth might disappoint someone today, but a lifetime of quiet pretending disappoints everyone eventually, including most painfully. This is where healthy boundaries stop being an abstract idea people talk about online and start becoming something lived. A boundary isn't a wall built to keep people out. It's closer to a form of honesty about what you can and can't carry anymore. And when you start setting them, especially after years of not having any, something predictable tends to happen. People who benefited from the version of you that never said no may struggle, genuinely struggle, to understand the version of you that finally does. That reaction doesn't automatically mean you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it simply means someone got used to a relationship built around your silence, and silence, once removed, changes the shape of everything. Real peace was never about making sure nobody is ever disappointed with you. It's about the quieter experience of your actions and your values finally agreeing with each other, even when that agreement is inconvenient for somebody else standing nearby. There's a cost hidden inside every decision made purely to avoid disappointing someone. It doesn't disappear just because you manage to dodge the uncomfortable conversation. It simply changes shoulders. You carry it instead. And there comes a point for almost everyone who walks far enough down this path, where the kindest available option for you and for the people around you is to stop organizing your entire life around avoiding hard truths. That doesn't mean becoming careless with people's feelings, or cold, or indifferent to how your words land. It means finally understanding that honesty and kindness were never actually enemies, no matter how often we're taught to treat them that way. Sometimes the most respectful thing you can offer someone is the truth, delivered with real care instead of fear wrapped up in politeness. The people who are meant to stay in your life will eventually understand the difference between you